Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the COVID cast. I am your host, Rick Richards, and it is April 4th, 2020, or day 21. I now have official dates. This all started March 14th for me. So today is day 21 of our isolation. Oh, man, I am looking rough. Man, I came in looking like a chiseled young pretty boy, and now my face is starting to look like a catcher's mitt. The days are getting tough. The days are getting long. I wake up in the night, don't always sleep well. But hey, we got to soldier on, right? We got to soldier on. I'm going to start off with a big shout out to producer Dave. Dave welcomed a new addition to the family today. He welcomed little Odell. Odell is a Bouvier. I'd never heard of that dog breed before, Bouvier, but that's in fact what he is. Cute little fluffy furry guy. Producer Dave has somebody else to hang out with now. That is Odell. And before we get into the heart of the show, I'm gonna smash some advanced nootropic. Oh. Had to go with McDonald's today. No Monster. Some people don't like the Monster. Hey, just felt like a coffee. Felt like something hot today. Advanced Nootropic, available right across Canada and the United States at GNC or online at gnc.com or athleticalliance.net or SVN Canada. And real quick, so I don't piss off Ivor, HydroPro, $10 right across Canada at GNC. If you buy any product, you can get this for $10. This is the Preppers promo. You're going to prep, get protein. Protein is a very underlooked item in the Preppers cabinet. Grab some. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's get the show moving. Shout outs to Julia, Terry McLean, Charlene, Dwayne, Rick, Sandy, Tina, Tammy, Tanya, Kim, Ivan, Vanessa, Diana, Kushi, Mr. Beast, Angie, Ivor, and of course, Lisa. But Lisa, you have been trumped, to use an unpopular word, trumped as a special friend of the show, just for today. You have been trumped by Mario Salerno. Mario Salerno is a New York City landlord. He has, let me see if I can dig this up here real quick. Mario Salerno has 18 buildings. 18 buildings in New York. And you know what this guy's doing? You want me to share the screen here? Let's share the screen. There we go. Nope. Okay. Oh, what the hell? All right. Well, I can't even see this, right? So let's get rid of that. Stop the share. Sorry, Mario. But yeah, anyway, so Mario Salerno, he's a landlord in New York, 18 buildings, and he's not charging anybody rent. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but we've had many speeches, many public addresses talking about how we're all going to get through this, right? Well, I don't think the banks got the memo because I know my mortgage was deducted. I was waiting to see that. I was waiting to see if there's going to be any kind of meaningful communication. I was waiting to see if I was going to get my utilities bill. And yeah, guess what? They all came. Landlord for this place too hit me up. Hey, they all want their money, right? What do you think, guys? What do you think? Are we all in it together? Or are these guys, some of them are still moving full speed ahead? See, that's the problem, right? That's the biggest problem with this is you can either say, look, we're all going to pause. Nobody's collecting anything, just the essentials, just food and shelter and I guess gas for the next however long this is going to be. Then we can take these vague answers, right? And we're all going to be in a pause unless you're an essential worker, right? Why are banks essential, right? How did banks fall into essential? Like, I mean, you got bank machines, right? But anyways, that's not what happened though. So, I mean, a major portion of the economy no longer gets to earn any money. Another major portion of the workforce is being worked half to death. Um, and then some of the rent seeking, interest collecting portions of the economy are full speed ahead. They're collecting everything that's due to them. The best offer you might get is, oh, yeah, we'll defer this. We'll defer this. Once the virus is over, yeah, don't worry. But when it's over, you're going to owe 100 grand. Okay. So, I mean, that's if anything should be addressed, it should be utilities, rents, mortgages, and I don't know, cell phones. Like, come on, cell phone companies, like, cut everybody a little slack, okay? Do a special, do a promo, do a virus promo. Like, hey, for the entire 6 weeks of your quarantine, you're gonna save on wireless, right? No, not happening though, is it? Oh well, man. I guess we have to soldier on, right? Let's take a look at the situation and see exactly where we are. See exactly where we are. First in the world, and then in our beloved backyard. All right. Coronavirus cases. Worldwide, we are just under 1.2 million. So 1,199,027. Probably within an hour, that bill will be 1.2 million. Deaths, 64,644. Recovered, 246,000. Should have most of the stats from each country in now. Okay, and now I have been poring over numbers again, even though it's the weekend, even though it's a Saturday. I have been scrutinizing numbers as I often do, and I am going to tell you guys a few key things to watch. But first, okay, so new deaths. France has now become the new epicenter. 1,053. It's a very high number considering there's 7,000 total deaths. The US, that number is escalating quite a bit there. Spain has actually fallen off. So I think we can see the flattening of the curve that we've heard so much about in Spain. And I think we can see Italy. Yeah, Italy's quite a bit down, right, from their peak. Flattening of the curve in Italy. UK still moving full speed ahead. So what we typically see now is we typically see from the peak infection rate, and I know this varies quite a bit depending on the testing, but the levels of testing has gone up. Like you can see this far column over here, how many tests have been done, and tests per million of the population. So Italy and Germany are the best at testing. Who else stands out? Switzerland doing a very good job of testing. Canada is okay. Austria, Russia is okay. Czech Republic, Finland. Some of these other places are just, geez, Ukraine. Come on. They've done 5,000 tests in a country of 50 million people. So, I mean, some of these places may have a problem and it just hasn't really completely revealed itself yet. Yeah. So what we're going to see, and I'm going to tell you right now, I am going to tell you guys right now that just based on the numbers, like this is not, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one. I don't act like one. I'm not anything to even do with being a doctor. I'm just some asshole talking into a computer, right? But, and I may not be an accountant like our good friend Julia, double shout out to Julia, but I am quite familiar with numbers and statistics and statistical trends, et cetera, et cetera. So typically we see the death rate spike at about 2 weeks after the infection rate spikes, right? And that's normally what you would expect. And I mean, we're seeing this, we're seeing this in the US, right? So if we look up here, globally, we can say that, okay, so out of 310,000 total resolved cases, right? That means where there has been an outcome, a satisfactory outcome. Well, I guess a death wouldn't count as a satisfactory outcome, but it is a closure of sorts, right? So out of 310,000 outcomes, 60,000 have been deaths. So that's about 20%, right? So assuming that that holds true, when we look at these new cases, we can probably assume that the number of new cases, there is going to be a result within about 2 weeks of deaths in the neighborhood of 20%. So that means if there's 32,000 new cases in the US, in about 2 weeks, we should see a very high death rate of about 2,000, right? Or let's say new cases, that's the total cases, but new cases, we would see about 20% of that would be 6,400. So we could, in 2 weeks, we could see a death rate as high as 6,400, right? And active cases, 8,000 we see now are critical. So yeah, it's possible this number is going to keep going. And like I say, I think judging from what I see here, it looks like Italy and Spain have flattened. France is on the upward trajectory still, as is the US, as is Canada, unfortunately for us. Well, although Canada, things seem very well contained in Canada, to be honest, okay? But yeah, I would expect the peak death rate to impact us in about 2 weeks. And I think that's what the authorities are most concerned about, is just that the number of people coming in is going to be overwhelming, right? So in our own backyard here, we can see there's 11,345 active cases, 231 deaths now in Canada, 2,314 have recovered. Oh, yeah, 13,890 confirmed cases as of today. Quebec is around 7,000 cases now. Quebec continues to be the epicenter. Ontario, it seems to be the most deadly. I'm not sure why that is. Ontario, they're having quicker resolutions and quicker outcomes. Yeah, I'm not sure why that is. Sometimes when you see this, it could mean that there's a difference in classification. For example, we know that most people have underlying medical conditions. So if somebody has if somebody is diabetic, for example, and they have this, it could be the diabetes that kills them, or if they die and they have both things going on, the death could fall under more than one classification, right? It could fall under something else. So that's probably what we're looking at there. And I think we're probably close to our peak infection rate now. And that should start to fall. And I think the peak fatality rate you'll see in about 2 weeks. So that is my prediction. And in my entire life, I have never seen, witnessed, been involved in anything that is as perplexing as this. I mean, I've never simultaneously seen such overwhelming evidence on one side of the equation and then such overwhelming evidence on the other side. And what do I mean by that? Well, okay, on the one side, we have every single person under the sun getting on TV, radio, whatever, and telling us what a threat this is. We see the number of tickers. We see how many new cases. We see it climbing every day. We see new fatalities every day. We see warnings. We see everything, right? But we don't see anybody we know coming down with this. I mean, if you watch this and you know somebody that's actually gotten this, let me know and tell me something that's for sure. Not a friend of a coworker, I think, got it. Tell me somebody that's reasonably healthy that has come down with this and is, in serious condition right now. Because that's the other side. We have so much evidence on one side that's telling us that we have this tsunami of death washing towards us. And then on the other side, nothing. I've been in 4 supermarkets now and a McDonald's where I got this, and they've been in contact with more people than anybody. Um, More people than anybody, not more sick people, obviously. You know, the healthcare workers would fall into that bucket, but they've been in contact with more people than anybody. And everyone I talk to, not one person has gotten sick. And it's really astounding. It really, really is astounding. So that's why you're seeing such a dichotomy. That's why you see it's just the flu bro on this side. That's why you see, come on, idiots, get your shit together on this side. This is serious, right? We see a complete split. And it's because you have 2 sets of people and they are prioritizing their perception, right? People that see the evidence online, they hear what they're being told by experts, they are prioritizing their perception. People that judge by their immediate surroundings and by personal experience, they're going by their perception. And the craziest thing of all is that with all the quarantine, I mean, we all know, we see people that are kind of violating this and, you know, pushing the boundaries. But the people I see pushing the boundaries of the quarantine the most are boomers. Boomers. Like, I mean, guys, you guys are the ones most likely to die. If anyone's going to die, it's going to be you, okay? And yet, when I go out, if there's people gathering in a park, people walking in groups, people just saying, oh, fuck it, I'm going to live the way I want to live, it's the boomers. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. And I mean, in this situation, though, in a situation where you have this and you're not sure whether to accept that perception, and you have this and you're not sure whether to accept that perception, I wanna go with this one, because if I go with this one, it can be life as normal. You know, we don't have to worry about unemployment and all this shit if we all go with that one, right? But if we go with this one, less people are going to die, right? And these aren't just numbers on a page that are dying, right? This is someone's grandfather. This is your mother. This is an aunt, an uncle. This is somebody you've worked with. These are people that are dying, and they're going to die a painful, isolated, miserable death. So that's why you have to err on the side of caution, right? Believe me, I don't want to. I'm getting fucked royally out of all the measures that are in place. But if you have to err on one side, let's not sacrifice our old people, right? Let's not be a country that says, you know what, GDP full speed ahead, immigration full speed ahead, low wage workers, economy, GDP, let's keep it going. Let's not do that at the expense of people's lives, right? Let's not let people die for the sake of the economy. And I mean, I think we can all tough this out for another couple weeks for sure. But then we got to see something compelling, right? That's when my patience runs out, because I'll tell you this, there are countries that are taking other methods. You know, Sweden is one of them. And we're watching Sweden. And Sweden, no businesses have been shut down. They are practicing some cautionary social distancing, but there is no effect to people's livelihoods, right? That's the big difference. So we're going to find out, right? I mean, we have definitely been read the Riot Act by our leaders, you know, whether it's Trudeau, Doug Ford, Donald Trump, whoever it is, whether you like them or not, we have gotten the Riot Act. We've gotten the big scare. And like I say, I'm on board with it being completely legitimate, right? But I think in 2 weeks, we are going to have some real answers, okay? And just by watching some of these other countries. And, you know, I mean, some good may come out of this. Some things will be revealed out of this. You know, I mean, one thing that's revealed is, you know, our relationship with the United States. I love America. If anybody who watches the Mexican jail video with me and Terry McLean, shout out Terry McLean, we were bailed out of a Mexican jail by Americans. And, you know, governments are not the people. Let's be clear on that. The government of the United States, I mean, people like to say Trump, but it's a whole group of people, Trump among them. But they kind of fucked us, right? Like they had masks that we had ordered and we had purchased, and they stepped in and said, "Hey, we're taking them from 3M." If you guys don't know this, Canada had purchased masks from 3M. 3M is a company that makes a variety of products, and one of them is masks. And they were due to ship to Canada, and the United States, they enacted a measure that said no masks. These are staying here. Now, I can understand to a point why they would do that, because they're in a very serious situation of their own, and it's irresponsible in some ways if you need something, to not keep it. Having said that, though, you are really screwing your neighbor and your friend, right? Like, I mean, it's not like we just opportunistically came in to get these things, right? This deal was put in place. It's worked out with a private company, arranged, and then they've kind of swooped in and stopped it. And that's really kind of a cheap shot, as far as I can say, So hopefully these things get worked out. It illustrates, though, you know what? Like I said, I don't like it, but I understand the motivation behind it. And I think that illustrates very clearly that in our country, we have to have full and total control over certain aspects of the economy, right? That goes without saying. So enough of that. Enough of, enough flexing on other countries. Let's get on to the main topic. So one of the interesting things to watch for, do you guys know what a shell game is? Have you ever watched the shell game? If you're, again, I'm old as fuck, but if you ever went to a carnival or a fair or stuff like that when you're younger, they used to do this kind of thing, right? It's called the shell game, where they would get 3 like cups or shells, and they would put like a ball or something small under them, right? And then they would go, and you'd have to guess which one it's under. And invariably, you'd never guess the right one, right? That was their, these carnies, that's how they make their money, right? So they're pretty good at it. But the principle behind the shell game is that while everybody is looking here, you're doing something over there, right? And that's what I always watch. Whenever there's, particularly with politics, especially with politicians, right? Politicians and the media, because the two quite often work hand in hand. But whenever politicians are directing your attention to something, always look around to see what isn't being looked at, right? A good example is whenever there's unpopular things or maybe controversial announcements, they'll do it on Friday afternoon, right? Because everybody's attention is somewhere else. So what's this colloquial rant going towards? Well, I will show you guys. So how many of you know what 5G is? Who knows what 5G is, right? 5G stands for fifth generation wireless technology. Now, I had heard of 5G. I heard, 5G is coming, 5G networks, 5G. Okay. I didn't really think too much about it, right? I mean, cell phone companies, they upgrade their equipment. What is that to me, right? Anyways, 5G is fifth generation wireless technology. It's for digital cellular networks that have begun wide deployment in 2019. But there are some concerns around 5G. 5G was invented or developed in China by a company called Huawei. And they started developing it in 2009. And they just started their commercial operation in November of 2019. They built up the first commercial network in China, November 2019. November. Anything else happening at that time? Is there anything else? Oh, yeah, okay. So there's concerns about 5G. There are concerns. And one of the concerns is the way 5G works is it's extremely fast, right? It's about 100 times faster than 4G. 4G is the current network cellular network that most of you would be operating on now. So 5G is about 100 times faster. So it's essentially instantaneous, right? Like if you download something or you stream something, it will come through instantaneously, right? But the way it works is that there's a very high electromagnetic radiation. It's much higher than the 4G level, and it's much higher than the recommended level as well. And it's also considered an ionizing radiation. So there's some symptoms, though, to EMF, electromagnetic fatigue. Sleep disturbances, headache, depression, depressive symptoms, tiredness, fatigue, dysesthesia, which is a painful, often itchy sensation, a lack of concentration, changes in memory, and dizziness. Those are some of the concerns, some of the physical concerns. So here's an article from Observations. We have no reason to believe 5G is safe. The technology is coming, but contrary to what some people say, there could be health risks. The telecommunications industry and their experts have accused many scientists who have researched the effects of cell phone radiation of fear-mongering over the advent of wireless technologies, 5G. See, and this is we're always in a battle for information, aren't we? Isn't it? It's just an information war, and it's so easy to be overwhelmed. So, you know what, man? I'm gonna help you guys, and I'm gonna take some of the burden off your plate, and I'll dig into a lot of this shit, right? And you know what? I get to learn about it myself, so that's interesting. Much of the research is publicly funded. So the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, that's the FCC in the United States, recently announced through a press release that the commission will soon reaffirm the radio frequency radiation exposure limits that the FCC adopted in the late 90s. So in the late 90s, when cell phones first started making their way on the scene, the FCC, they realized that, yes, there were concerns about all this electromagnetic radiation, and they decided to adopt some limits. These limits are based on behavioral changes in rats exposed to microwave radiation, and were designed to protect us from short-term heating risks due to RFR, radio frequency radiation exposure. So yeah, so essentially, anytime you're using a device, you're microwaving the immediate vicinity. That's why it gets hot, right? It's the same principle as a microwave oven, how it heats things up. So there you go. What happens if you, I don't know, stick an animal on a microwave oven? But that's obviously an extreme example, right? These limits were largely based on research from the 1980s. A preponderance of peer-reviewed research, more than 500 studies, have found harmful biologic or health effects from exposure to RFR at intensities too low to cause significant heating. So that's at low intensities. 500 studies have found harmful biologic or health effects. That's a bit concerning, right? Citing this large body of research, more than 240 scientists, who have published peer-reviewed research on biologic and health effects of non-ionizing electromagnetic fields, signed the EMF Scientist Appeal, which calls for stronger exposure limits. The appeal makes the following assertions. Numerous recent scientific publications have shown that EMF affects living organisms at levels well below most international and national guidelines. So essentially what this means is most of these studies and publications indicate that exposure to this at limits that are lower than what are currently acceptable have negative side effects. And 5G is higher. It's much higher, right? So some of the effects include increased cancer risk, cellular stress, increase in harmful free radicals, genetic damages, structural and functional changes of the reproductive system. I'd like to know what that means. Learning and memory deficits, neurological disorders, and negative impacts on general well-being in humans. Damage goes well beyond the human race, and there is growing evidence that it affects aliens as well. No, just kidding. Evidence is harmful to both plant and animal life. So, okay, so there are some concerns, right? There's more concerns. There is more than just health concerns with the 5G network. So, one of the biggest problems we have, outside of health concerns, the next biggest problem we have with 5G networks is penetration through the back door. I'm just going to let this hang there for a while. So yeah, if you're worried about penetration through the back door, most of the current 5G controversy centers on whether the US and European mobile operators should buy equipment from the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. The US government previously banned the firm from its telecom. See, all of this is made by the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. And there is concern that they can essentially monitor, spy on people, and all of that through the 5G networks, partly because that there is just such a rapid and fast data transfer that it's wide open, right? Like it's like the difference between a trickle from a fire, from a hose, and a flood from a dam coming in. You know, it's a lot easier to filter and monitor the hose than it is to filter and monitor the dam coming in through the back door. So both the US and European positions towards Huawei seem to be at odds with their commercial interests. By banning the Chinese company, US President Donald Trump is favoring existing European and South Korean equipment suppliers. Well, there you go. For all of us, we shit on Donald Trump, but I mean, he's probably only motivated by the deal that he's got with the Europeans and the South Koreans. But hey, it's something to be concerned about anyways, and that is espionage. So we have health effects and we have espionage. One of the results of this is that 5G technology, 5G networks have been banned as of last December, by Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Taiwan, all the countries that are close to China. Isn't that interesting? They've banned it. And the US has decided to ban and phase out the company's products within their mobile networks. The UK has banned the company from contributing core parts to 5G technology. So the UK is concerned about the spying, don't give a shit about your health. But what's happening in our backyard? Well, funny you should ask. Funny you should ask. So while the entire country is absolutely 100% focused on the coronavirus, a 5G network has been launched in Canada. So 5G launched to the consumer market in March of 2020 on the Rogers Wireless Network. Other mobile carriers, including Bell and Telus, are currently upgrading their cell towers with new hardware and software that will make the transition between 4G and 5G appear seamless. A variety of smartphones with 5G capability exist in other markets, but only the Samsung Galaxy S25G models are supported in Canada. So there you go. I mean, I've had the reason I was looking into this is I've actually had some people send me pictures of 5G towers and say, yeah, well, this part of the economy isn't being shut down. And no, they're not. So Rogers has launched in the downtown area of Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal, with more than 20 markets launching by the end of the year. The Canadian government is still considering whether or not to allow Huawei's technology to be deployed. Sounds like it's happening, guys. It sounds like while you're obsessing over the coronavirus, this network is being installed by the same country that gave us the coronavirus. They gave it to us, right? And now they're putting in a network. Like, holy shit, man. I mean, at what point do you pump the brakes and say, look, China, you do you for a little while, okay? We love you guys to come over here and visit, we love Chinese food, right? The Chinese food with no bats and shit like that, the Western Chinese food, love it. Let's pump the brakes on setting up a virtual network across the country that can spy on everybody. And let's pump the brakes on sending us the plague, okay? All right, I'm overdoing it for dramatic effect, I know. The problem comes from the assumption that Huawei could build backdoors. These backdoors could allow access by the Chinese government, with whom the company shares tight political and economic connections. Well, of course they do. It's a communist country, right? There is no really private companies over there. The government has a stake in every company. Could lead to spying by a potentially aggressive superpower. Yeah, it's not a good, it doesn't seem like a good idea to me. It really, the Canadian government is still assessing the possibility of a ban. Meanwhile, the networks are going up. So there you go. Always remember, if I can impart one piece of advice to anybody that's willing to listen, always remember that while X is going on here, quite often Y is going on over there. And the thing you should really be watching is Y. So that is it. That is it. Let me know if you guys have anything else you would like me to take a deep dive into. Let me know if you would like to hear an interview with my kids. A couple people now have asked if I'll interview them and talk to them about the shit that they're doing, those little rascals, and what they're getting up to and how they're dealing with quarantine life as a kid. I will be happy to do it. I'll force them to talk. I won't give them any coffee or advanced nootropic. They don't need it. So any other ideas, you let me know. I will cover them. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, if we stick together, can't nobody stand against us. Goodbye.